This is the trunk of my 2000 Cavalier, and in order to get to the struts, we got to go in there. All right. I don't know what this thing is called. Is it a carpet or is it sort of a quasi-carpet? Anyway, you just pull it down, and way up in there, there's some bolts and stuff. We got to get those out. These hold the top of the strut in place, and it looks like 2 bolt in from the bottom, and one has a nut, which is about 13 mil. So access is definitely a bit of an issue in here. Luckily, I have my trusty 13mm gear wrench, and I'll get that out pretty quickly. And here's the triumphant shot of me taking the nut off. That's always a showstopper. So this is the strut right here, this tube, and then up here is the spring, and we're gonna replace the whole assembly with what's called a quick strut. But if you look up there and see how it's mounted, it looks like I should have gone to the car wash, you know, at least once ever, but I didn't. Down here though, it's a different story, just one big bolt. Looks pretty easy. Now that I cleared away some of the crud, you can see 2 10mm bolts holding that thing in. Those aren't gonna be too hard to get to, but I might have to do it off camera. So I guess for what it's worth, here's me taking one of the bolts out. I don't know if that helps you or not. It's pretty self-explanatory. So here's some B-roll of those 2 bolts and my ratchet in case you wanted to see that, but they're out. And next up is this big bolt, so let's see what we can do with that. First I'm gonna spray it with WD-40. Look at that. And now I'm gonna use my breaker bar and an 18mm socket. And yeah, my breaker bar, it's like the pin falls out, so I had to tape it, sorry. And this bolt is in kind of a weird location, at least to make the video, but it's coming out real easily. And here's the triumphant shot of me taking the bolt out. So there's the bolt out. So now I had to push down on the control arm a little bit to get the strut out, but it came out pretty easily. Here are the new struts I got from Rock Auto a while back. Let's see how they compare to the old strut. Check it out, it's really like night and day. The old strut, it's filthy, it's totally worn out, the boot is cracked. The new strut is shiny, it's fresh, nothing's leaking. See all this leakage right here? That's bad. Grime, dirt, grease. This thing's brand new down to the Moog logo, so I'm gonna put it in. So I cleaned the mounting surface as well as I could. Looks pretty good up there. So here I've carefully guided the new strut into place, which I had to do with 2 hands, so I couldn't do it on camera, but it's in there. Moog included some bolts and nuts, so I guess I'll try to use those instead of the factory ones and see what happens. I couldn't get the Moog bolts into the holes, so I went with the factory bolts. They should do just fine. Chevy has some pretty smart engineers. Moog was also kind enough to include replacement bolts for the bottom, but I'm gonna stick with the factory Chevy bolt, because it's easier. And here I am tightening that bolt to torque specifications, which I absolutely looked up and referenced, and you should too. So all that's left to do is tighten this one last nut at the top of the strut, and we're finished. So there's my new strut. It's going to improve my ride quality and increase my load carrying capability. And honestly, the hardest part about this job was making the video. So thanks for watching.